7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome to Launch with Kim
and Dr. New. How's everyone doing today?
Doing great.
How's everyone doing?
Hope you're doing well.
Love you. So listen, man, we want to start a new series today. And so I'm going to kind of like jump right in. I know we kind of talked a little bit, let some folks come time to get on and everything. But we got a lot to cover. I'm going to try to kind of stay on pace as much as possible because I really need these glasses. I'm putting them back on. Like the world just went foggy on me for a minute.
Well, just go ahead and accept it.
So we pray that all is going well in your families and your finances, with your children and your health and your properties and your businesses and your relationships and everything, all the spokes on the wheel of your life that we like to call it when we're working in our marriage pieces. So just thank you for coming in today, spending your time. We want to jump into a new series on leadership. So just a little history of it. We created a series called Layers of Leadership 101, and it's really a 10-part seminar type series. So working on putting that online so that you can, just kind of log in and go through that on your own. But the thing is, we did it at a church and it went few months,
Yeah, it did.
because we started to dig into things and unpeel things and peel things back. So we won't get that opportunity to do this in this series, the way that we're doing it this way. So my point is that a lot of the things that we're doing, we're just kind of uncovering. We're just kind of uncovering some of the things. Let me get these banners up. We can go a little deeper in them. So we don't want you to kind of, expect it to get super, super deep with this, but we will kind of peel back the lid, if that makes sense.
Well, this is the intro, and anytime there's an introduction, it's kind of a full synopsis of what we're going to be talking about over the series.
Yeah.
So it's very informative, and I'm not going to talk down about it. It's great.
Oh, I wasn't talking down. I was just kind of trying to get you to see that we can like spend a lot of time on each on a lot of these concepts. They're pretty heavy. So the base scripture that we're going to use is Joshua today. Joshua, that first chapter, the 1st through the 9th verse. So before we get into that, I want to kind of throw up here, if we can. I'm going to show you some slides. I'm going to kind of do this in a teaching manner. So what I need to do is I need to kind of set a foundation, if you will, for what leadership is.
Yeah.
And some of the generalizations that we are assuming and putting in place when we talk about leadership itself. So I figured the best way to do that would be to put a slide up for you. So I think that one's good. I hope that's big enough for you to see. If it's not, to say something in the chat and we will go ahead and I'll make it a little larger for you. What would you want to say?
Oh, I was saying, don't forget to log into your phone because people might respond.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to
I
work it. I don't usually work it. So the generalizations that we're working from leadership today are simply this: that God created the earth and he created leadership. And one of the scriptures that we kind of used for that, or showed that is the case, is Proverbs 3:19, where it says, "The Lord by wisdom have founded the earth, and by understanding he established the heavens." So I know you're saying by wisdom. What's that have to do with leadership? Well, the wisdom is the activation of knowledge and what you understand. So it is what you do. Leadership is the activation. It's an action. It's a thing that you're doing. So by the leadership of what he understood, he established these things.
And Solomon, remember, he asked for wisdom, and wisdom was the thing that actually made him such a great leader.
Yep, exactly. Nothing exists without leadership. Again, we can go to that same scripture that we just said. And there's a leader in each and every one of us.
Thank you, Pastor Clay. He says he can see the slide really good.
Excellent. There's a leader in each and every one of us, right? So what we want to say to you is that leadership is a responsibility. It's not a position. So a position is a position that has to do with government, that has to do with organization and things of that sort. But leadership is a responsibility. It is a call. It's a charge. It's a thing that we need to do. So because of that, each of us has been made responsible for a specific purpose, a cause, or a vision. There's something that we like to call our Jeremiah 1:5,
right?
Or our Ephesians 1:5, 9, or 11, where it talks about being predestined according to his good will. So each of us have something in us that we are to accomplish.
Right.
So that's the leader that's in you. And we'll show you a little later on today what it is that we were created to be leaders over. All mankind itself, male man and female man, what we were all created to be leaders over. We'll tell you that a little bit later. But the next principle is that leadership must be developed. Right. So it's something. Leadership is really it's a journey. It's a journey of discovering yourself. It's a self-discovery journey. I don't know if you've ever been a leader over a thing, even if it was just your family, in your household, with your marriage, or raising your children, whether it was a project that you were doing yourself, you had to lead yourself to establish that thing. You learn so much about you, what you do and will do and wouldn't do. So after a year or two of kind of being in, I'm going to say, in a leadership position where there's actually people under you, or you're making decisions for the direction of a thing, after a year or two, go back and think about yourself and how you react and respond to things that are coming your way. You'll see that your answers are way different than they were when you started that.
Right.
So from the outside, we see people, yeah, if that was me, I would have did this, or I would have did that. Until you get in that spot.
Yeah. The outside is the best position for an opinion.
Right. The best,
perfect spot for an
exactly. So leadership is a journey. It's a journey on self-discovery where you're learning about yourself, and what you're doing is you're developing a skill set. You're developing your purpose. I like to call it your fruit. You're maturing those things within yourself. So these are the principles that we are putting in play. And saying that these are the leadership assumptions or generalizations from which everything we talk about in this series will fall from.
I need to say good morning to Sherry Nunez, Pastor Robert Clay. Thank you for joining us this morning, guys. We appreciate you. I'm sure if you are on Newt's page and there's no response, he doesn't have his phone on, you can log on to our actual page of Launch 360 for response. If that way we can do it.
I think I see Candace Henderson as
well. Hi, Candace. Right. How do you see them, Newt?
From comments here.
Oh, okay.
So as we kind of keep moving forward, the last thing that we want to say as a leadership generalization that everything's going to come from is that mankind was created to lead. We were all created to be a leader over some area of giftedness, that we possess, that's within us. So those are our leadership principles, if you will, that we're flowing from. So I'm going to kind of click to the next slide here. So I want to, as we keep going, still kind of laying a foundation for you, right? We're going to let you know that there's characteristics that every leader has.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when we're talking about it from a spiritual sense or church sense or non-secular sense, which I get the opportunity to operate in both those worlds. So I don't really see a difference. I connect the principles and build a bridge between the two. So I thought that it would be valuable for folks, because we have all kinds of listeners, for you to see the characteristics of every type of leader, whether they're secular or non-secular. And that first characteristic is that if they're driven by anger and need. And I know you're saying anger, oh, that's a bad word. So what we're saying, maybe I could use passion,
Right.
but I wanted to catch your attention. So I want you to think of a Martin Luther King, who was fed up, with being treated as a second-class citizen, or
watching his family,
yes,
hearing stories.
Right. People being hurt and done wrong just because of the color of their skin. So there's some anger, there's some passion behind that cause or that purpose. Every leader has that.
Right.
There's something that has disgusted you, something that has set you at your limits, something that has lit your fire so much that you are ready to address it.
Right.
And that could be anything. It can be anything. It could be a process. It could be a system. It could be something happening to people. It can be lack. It can be too much of a thing. Anything like that, it's going to anger you. That's what drives a leader. That has to be there. Okay. The other thing is that they're courageous.
Right.
A leader has to be courageous enough to do what? Stand by themselves, or they wouldn't be a leader. Leader is out in front of the crowd,
leading the way,
not necessarily in the crowd. Now that leader will position himself or herself in front of the crowd, sometimes in the crowd, sometimes behind the crowd, right? But they're always, that's when they know that they're the leader. They understand their position. But the point is the leader is a lonely walk. So you have to be able to take a stand, make a choice, make the uncomfortable, the uncommon decision. So a good example now is you're looking at everything that's happening in our world, in our government, just here in the United States.
Right.
So we have this crazy dichotomy that's worse than it ever was in my lifetime with Democrat and Republican. So you got one party voting to not do a thing that is good for everyone just because they don't want the other party to look good, right? Then you have a leader that has to stand in the middle and make a decision, which is going to make them unpopular. However, whatever decision they make, it's going to make them unpopular because we have this dichotomy. And that's kind of how our society is working. I just used our government. I want you to think about your place of employment.
Right.
I want you to think about your communities, your churches,
your
the centers,
home.
the homes. That is kind of what has happened to our society because of social media. So there's always this dichotomy. A leader has to be in place and ready to make that tough decision.
Yeah.
Understanding that you may not be liked by someone, you're not going to be liked or approved by someone somewhere else. So some of those examples, and I had them, I don't know where I wrote them down, but some of those examples are people like the three Hebrew boys, right? Daniel,
definitely.
right?
Daniel.
Took a stand. You got Nelson Mandela, right? Who went to prison, was it 20 some years?
These are our secular
lost a whole life, because he was courageous enough to stand against a thing, right? One of the other points is that leader has to be willing and understand, it has to be a part of them to train whoever's next. Leadership, the biggest thing about leadership is succession. So people like to measure a leader, say, oh, they're a great leader. Look what they established. Look what they put in place. Well, that's just part of it.
Right.
The greatest leaders are the greatest leaders because after they've left, that thing that they have established is still alive. It's still thriving. It's still growing. It's still impacting.
Right.
So let's take Abraham Lincoln. So we call him a great leader. I know there may be people who say, well, he had this motive or that motive, whatever. The point is that the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, 13th Amendment was put in place, and Black folks are no longer slaves here in this country. That was at the hand of Abraham Lincoln, right? He's dead and gone. That thing is still alive. It's still happening, thank God. right? So that is a mark of a great leader, an excellent leader. The civil rights movement and the civil rights bill that came out of that in 1965 was a result of that whole nonviolent movement, those sit-ins, those boycotts, those things, those marches that Martin Luther King and a whole network. There was a student, forget what it's called, SNCC, forget what it's called, but there was a whole network of organizations that worked together to cause that. And each of those networks had leaders, and those leaders worked together under one leadership. That is what leadership is about. It's about succession. So you have to be able to train or know that you're going to train who's next. Continuing the vision is what leadership is about. And the fifth and last thing before we kind of move on is that the leader is always about accomplishing the vision at all costs. So whether it's comfortable, whether it's uncomfortable, whether you get to stick with the plan or you have to change the plan, whether it brings resources or depletes resources, a leader is focused on accomplishing the vision, which means that vision must be clear. Must have spent some time seeing, understanding, focusing, and being aware of what that vision actually is. Okay.
Yes, passing the baton, Pastor Clay.
Yep. So when we're talking about the vision, a lot of times personally for us, as if you're not a leader or organization or something like that, a position, our personal leadership, it's our why, our reason for doing things. Now, your why and your motive are two different things.
Right.
Your motive is what's motivating you to do that thing right now. You want to be seen, you want to be heard, or whatever the case may be.
Mostly they're selfish desires.
But your why is what you're trying to accomplish, why you're trying to accomplish it. Okay, so for instance, I'm a college professor. So they'll say, what's my why in college? When they ask us that, what's my why? Well, my why is to educate at potential populations, because I believe that education is a bridge that opens up doors for folks who otherwise didn't have them. So my why is really to serve at potential populations and struggling communities, to connect them to something that will give them different possibilities, right? So because that's my why, I really go overboard in the whole education piece. So I want you to understand a vision, a leader has to be able to accomplish that vision by looking past what they're doing and stay into why they're doing it. Got another slide for you guys, So I want to break some myths up. Now, this slide's kind of small because I kind of wanted to get them on, but there's some myths in leadership. And one of the biggest myths is that you can't be a leader without followers, right? Well, the word kind of just doesn't say that. Now, these quotes here are all true, if you can see them. A man who thinks he's leading but has no one following is only out taking a walk. It's an old Chinese proverb, right? It's true, right? But it's not a principle upon which you build your leadership journey. Your leadership journey begins in you first. We'll show that a little bit later when we get into Genesis 1 for you. But your leadership journey, it's not about you. You don't wait to get followers to be a leader. You start leading and produce a fruit, and the fruit will attract your followers. So it's the fruit that your followers are after, not necessarily you.
Right.
You just have a gift and a vision and a drive. Something has made you angry enough to want to do something, and you're compelled to do that thing. As it starts producing and you're able to communicate that thing, that's when followers will begin to appear. So let's see what else I have for you. So the secular view of leadership. I told you I had the opportunity to kind of work in both arenas. So when you look at the secular view of leadership, it always focuses on external outcomes, things that are already defined, and they're usually driven or defined by popular opinion, by whatever's popular at that time, or whatever defines success at that time, whether it's money or notoriety or followers or whatever the case may be. It's defined by some finite thing in this physical realm that we can wrap our mind around. And once we reach that thing, we say we've led well and been successful, right? And it's driven by usually some type of classism. So if you look at secular leadership, there are people who will, even at your job, you'll say they are the leaders and I'm not, or I'm a leader and they're not. And it's usually classism or hierarchy or position is how we define leadership. And God just did not say it that way. So the secular view of leadership is usually driven by some destination, right? That's finite or limited. It's an idea that we've already grasped, and it's I don't know how to say it. The boundaries and how it's evaluated has to do with human thinking.
So it's not limitless,
right?
Because it can stop,
right? What we can see,
what we can, right? That's what the secular view of leadership is,
and it violates a lot of God's laws, but
Definitely.
In particular, Ephesians 3:20. Where he says, now unto him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we, so I'm making it personal for me, all I can ask or think, all you can ask or think, all whoever we call a leader can ask or think. So according to the power that worketh within us, which means worketh, it's continuing to work. So it's something that's being developed in us, by him. So God is saying, listen, leadership is limitless. It's boundless. You have to be able to see farther than you can look, right? So that's the secular view of leadership, but it's kind of combats or goes against a kingdom view of leadership.
Right.
However, the principles that drive both of them are very similar, very same. So here's the truth about leaders and followers, right? When I say the truth, I'm talking about a kingdom-based principle. So when we look at this, we're saying that God assigned leadership for us to serve others.
Right.
Right. So when you look at Genesis, let me go there real quick. When you look at Genesis, that first chapter, and yeah. I guess I should have had a little tab there. When you look at Genesis, that first chapter, in the 24th verse, I believe it is.
It's 26.
Yeah, 26th verse. 26th verse, he says, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So we have dominion over those things, which means we're ruling over those things. But did it ever say we have dominion over another man? Why? Because we're to partner. We're to partner together and work together. How do we know that? Because if you go to, I believe it's the 28th verse, right? And it says, then God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and multiply.
Right.
So how do I multiply? Multiply means you take two things, two individual things.
That's right.
You bring them together in what's called repeated addition, so you can create a greater thing.
Right.
So how do I do that? I work with you. We serve one another's fruit that we have. And we seed. So listen, you can't be fruitful without being seedful. So God already placed the seeds in us. So we recognize the seeds that are in one another. We work together to produce a fruit that's greater than what any of us could produce alone.
Right.
Right. So also in that 26th verse, he goes on and he says, the 28th verse, he goes on, he says, be fruitful, multiply. Right. Then he goes on and he says, where we at? Am I 20? I meant to say, 28. Fish of the sea, or the birds of earth. I've given you every fruit thing. Where I wanted to get to the part where he says, be fruitful multiply, replenish. Okay, fill the earth or replenish the earth and subdue it.
Yeah.
And have dominion over all the
Right.
everything he says. So I kind of have on the screen there what those words mean. So dominion is a Greek word, a Hebrew word, radah, which means go among to rule. So you have to be there.
Right.
You have to be in position. You're not sitting in the ivory tower. You're interacting. You're working together. Fruitful is exactly that, to grow,
right,
to increase. So para is that Hebrew word. So it means to make greater than it was, to increase a thing. To replenish is the word malah, which means to be or keep full. So I wanted to pull that out because when we think of replenish in our English language, we expect it to get empty. And that's not what that word meant. It meant be full, keep full, never let it start to deplete. You create cycles and you create systems and you create organizations so that this thing stays full.
Right.
That it's always growing and stays full.
Right.
Right. And then there's subdue, which is probably my favorite one, kabas, which means bring into subjection. But it's really saying under your feet. If you look at there's a lot of different verbs and contractions that they have for Hebrew words. It says under your feet, right? So why is it under your feet? Because you're using it as a footstool so you can step up. You subdue a thing so that you can reach higher, right? Why? So you can bring everything else up.
There it is.
To that level. So this is the truth about leadership, kingdom leadership, and followers as it plays. So let me pull that out of there and let's get back on the screen. So those are some of the things that we wanted to kind of, and I'm at 20, and I'm at 11:30 already. What I wanted to do with you guys is to remind you that everyone's born a leader.
Right.
Right. But over some skills that you have, over area gifted that you have. That's why God listed all the things that we have dominion over, and you never see man.
Never see man.
I am not a ruler over another man.
Well, it was clear because remember when they wanted a king, and he never wanted them to have a king,
right? Because
he wanted to be their king.
Yes.
And they insisted. And you see what happens when you insist to rule over someone or have someone ruling over you.
Right. But leadership does exist in our interaction with one another in all those things: multiply, being fruitful, subduing, replenishing. So leadership exists, but I don't have dominion.
Right. That's the difference.
Over another man. So we call that our Jeremiah 1:5, which we kind of explained to that, so it's kind of before when you were in your mother's womb, when I formed you, I knew you.
Yeah.
Sinosco knew you. I was intimate with you. We interacted. I knew everything about you. Right. And then I consecrated you. I appointed you. I put you in place to do a thing. So we're all here for a reason to do a certain thing. And I know you hear us say that all over and over again, but we don't always talk about Ephesians 1. So if you look at Ephesians 1, the 5th verse, the 9th verse, and the 11th verse, he kind of repeats it 3 ways. And maybe in another message, we'll talk about why, that unveiling of the thing. Because first he knows it, then you know it, and then everyone else has to know it.
Yes.
Right? So he predestined us, us. Something's already in place for us. Why? He wants for himself, right, according to his purpose,
right,
and his will that's in us. We all are leaders over an area of giftedness. It's already been put in place. Right. If you look at that 9th verse, it's on the screen there. It says why? It says according again to his purpose. So he releases this mystery.
Right.
That mystery that was happening in Jeremiah 1:5 when he was forming us.
Right.
He releases that. Now we come to the revelation. Reveal, because it's already been there. It's not, it's not a new thing. Revelation of what it was that he's already placed in us, right? Already charged us to do, already anointed us to do, wants us to do here, right? But now we understand it's according to his will and to his purpose.
Right.
Now let's look at that 11th verse of Ephesians. And again, I'll just read the whole thing. It says, in him we have obtained an inheritance. Now you understand something about an inheritance. You don't have to work for it.
Right.
It's just given to you, right?
Unearned.
Unearned. You just have to reach a level of maturity.
Right.
And that's a whole nother weos and nepios. But having been predestined, again, there's that word, predestined, according to what? The purpose of him. Our predestination, our reason for being here, our Jeremiah 1:5 is set in place, and it's not about us.
Right.
It's a purpose according to his will.
Yeah.
Right? According to the counsel of his will. So we just want to kind of put those things in place for you. So here's what we've done today so far. We've given you some universal assumptions about leadership. Those were that first slide that I showed you. We dispelled some myths about leadership, especially as it comes to followers. Right. You don't start with followers. Right. You start with leadership. Right. Followers come because they're attracted to your fruit.
You're your follower.
Yes. You're your biggest follower.
You're your member. You're your follower. And then you're your leader.
And here's the deal. If I can follow me,
right,
nobody else is gonna have a problem following me because I know me.
So that maturity first has to happen.
I know just my like motives. Yes. Yep. If I'm okay with me, then there's no question everyone else is gonna be okay with me.
That's so true.
Right. Assuming that I'm not narcissistic or anything like that. Right. And then we compare secular versus non-secular views in leadership. So I'm like 4 minutes over, but I really want to. I'm gonna push on. Is that all right? Do you want me to?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
So Joshua, let's look at Joshua 1:9 because I want to leave you with 3 C's that every leader must possess.
Yeah, we need them.
So I wanted to cover. I told you I had a lot to cover today because we had to lay the foundation. So hopefully you had a foundation of where we're coming from. So if you look at Joshua 1 through 9, and I moved from it. I don't know why I didn't just put a piece of work in there. So I'm going to read it for you. I don't always read the verses, but I'm going to read this one. It says, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, and it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' assistant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over to the Jordan, you and all the people, to the land which I'm giving them, the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you, as I said to Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, and all the land of the Hittites, and to the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your territory. So he laid out the territory. No man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. So be strong and of good courage. For to this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous. Here's a good part, that you may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from thy mouth, but you shall meditate in it day and night, that you observe to do according to all that is written in it, for then you will make your way prosperous. Then you will have good success. And have I not commanded you?
There it is.
Be strong, be of good courage, and do not be afraid, nor be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So I don't always read the whole the verses, but I want to read it right there. But here's what we want you to kind of pull out of there. If you look at those first couple of verses, it says that Joshua was Moses' servant, right? Moses' assistant. That's the word it uses here, right? So when you think about, I work at a university, and the president of the university has an executive assistant. That executive assistant is right there with that president of the university with everything, every meeting, knows the schedule, calendar, access to him, knows everything about the president, wherever they're going at all times. And that executive assistant that's the one who's over all the other assistants. So every other assistant, for the provost, vice provost, all the deans, they all answer to that executive assistant. That's who Joshua was. Joshua was right there next to Moses. Knew everything. Somebody looking for him. Oh, he's in the bathroom. He'd be right back. that's how I want you to see how close. That's what that means. This assistant. Moses goes up on the mountain, doesn't come back. Don't you think Joshua knew Moses? He been gone 3-4 days. Ain't heard nothing from Moses. This ain't right. Moses gone. Right? Yet God still says to Joshua, Moses, my servant, is dead. My point is, Joshua already knew that. Why did God come back and say that to Moses? To Joshua. Why did he say, my servant is dead? Right? And then in the second verse, he goes on and says, now therefore arise, go over to this Jordan, right? And take all the people with you, because I'm about to give you your land.
This thing is so crazy.
Right. And not only does he tell him he's going to give him the land, he lays out the land. He said, I'm going to give you from this river to that river, from this shore to that shore, from this valley to that valley, and as everywhere as you can go in that arena, from sun up to sundown, all that you can carry, that's your land. Right. So he was very specific about what he was going to give him. So two things happened. He repeated to Joshua something he already knew. Then he spelled out to Joshua exactly what I want you to do and where you're going to go. I'm going to tell you your boundaries. Why? Because the first C that every leader must have is clarity. God was very clear, made it very clear.
Yes, he did.
Listen, you're in position now.
Moses, my servant,
he's dead.
Is dead.
Right?
The one you looked at as a leader, the one you followed, the one who you relied on. He's not your leader anymore. He's my servant, and he's gone. And now this is your responsibility.
Now you in place now, right? I know you knew he was already dead. I just want to make it clear.
He's gone.
He's gone. He ain't coming back. Now it's you.
Yeah.
This is your position. This is who you are. This is the authority I'm giving you. Now this is crazy. Because think about it. Moses gone. Joshua knew it. Joshua's now the next day or whatever put in place in Moses' place, and nothing else changed.
Yeah.
None of the executive board changed. None of the other leaders, the structure, nothing else changed except Joshua. Moses gone, Joshua. Just switch pieces. One piece. Joshua had to step in that place in Moses' shoes with Moses' leadership team that liked Moses. They liked him. So it wasn't no, undermined and undertow happening. Moses was the man in their eyes. Now here comes Joshua. You got to step in there. That's why he said, listen, be strong.
Be strong.
Be strong. Right?
Don't be afraid.
Yes. So if you go on down, what is it? The 6th verse. It says, be strong and of good courage, for this people you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. And then the 7th verse, he starts out again, only be strong and be courageous. So he said it very quickly, right back next to one another for a couple of reasons. One, only things changing is Joshua.
His position.
Right. So there's going to be Joshua's going to get challenged
by the people as they challenged Moses.
By the people, yes, that is, he challenged Moses, but as the people that God's telling him to go lead.
And the ones he has to go to. So in front of him and behind him.
Yes. So there's go over into this new land. You about to take this land where there's people there. They don't want to give up their land. So you're going to meet some opposition out. You're going to meet some opposition in. And you got yourself to deal with. Right. That's the biggest one. I really believe that's why God said it so much. Be strong. Listen, he didn't say do strong. He didn't say become strong. Strong is not, it wasn't a condition that he was setting forth. It was a state of being. He said, I want you to be, not do, not become, not think, not act, be. To be a thing means you grow from the inside. You mature into that. It's a development process that takes place. So be strong. It wasn't an overnight thing for Joshua. That's why God said, listen, I'm going to be with you. I'm here with you. I got you. I have your back always. right? So what's the second C? The second C is courage.
Yeah.
Every leadership must have courage. Every leader must have courage. And again, if you see it, I have on the screen, it says it's in the first verse, the first chapter, the 6th verse and the 9th verse.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at in the 6th verse, it starts out, be strong and of good courage.
Mm-hmm.
Again, in the 7th verse, it says, only be strong and very courageous. And then if you look at the 9th verse, it says, have I not commanded you?
Yeah.
Be strong and of good courage. Right, and do not be afraid, all those things. So a reason why I just put 6 and 9 up on the screen, because if you look at 7, the 7th verse, it starts out, only be strong and very courageous. Then it goes in and says that you may observe
Mm-hmm.
to do according to all the law which Moses my servant, all the law which Moses my servant commanded you. Then it says, do not turn from the left or for the right.
Right.
Don't get off track.
Don't get caught up.
Right, that you may prosper wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
Then he goes on and says, this book of the law.
Yeah.
Meditate on it. What's meditate on it? It means think about it. It means ponder it. It means pull it apart. It means understand it. It means put it in place in scenarios in your life, which means you got to get honest with it, which means you have to understand what of it applies to you or you're submitting to or not submitting to. Meditate is a big, gigantic word. It doesn't just mean sit in the room and be quiet, right? So meditate is an active word. Meditate on it day and night. Think on it day and night. Why? That you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. So it was a law. It was a process. And then you make your way prosperous and have good success. Why are we bringing this up? Because the third C that every leader must have is character.
Mm-hmm.
Those verses right there, 7th and 8th, good character, right? 7th and 8th verse are addressing Joshua's character.
Right.
It's addressing the internal part of Joshua, where he has to develop some discipline. He has to make some choices. He has to decide some things and stick to that path that's set in front of him when he didn't ask to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He was Moses' assistant.
Mm-hmm.
He was cool with Moses, but never wanted to be Moses. Right? So that's an internal struggle. There's that whole what's it called? Imposter syndrome that he had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, I saw Moses split the Red Sea
Mm-hmm.
and do all kinds of stuff. Hold it. You want me to step in there? I can't do that. I'm just the assistant. I know where everything is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm good at organizing and managing. Now he's stepping up from manager to leader. So there was a character development that had to take place in him. On top of that, he had to deal with his own ego. Let's be real. Yesterday, I was making $65,000 a year as the assistant. Today, I'm making $250,000, and it's my name on everybody's check.
So that's so important for our secular lifestyle. That's something that we got to think about. That principle, we need to stretch it out across our lives.
Right. So it's character.
Yeah.
He had to check himself. That's why he said, listen, that's why God said, don't go to the left
Help
or
us,
to the
Lord.
right.
Help us, Lord.
Focus on what's written right here, right
Yeah.
now, because that's how you're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Do all that your servant, my servant Moses has commanded you. Follow that lead,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's something different. There's a reason why it's you and not Moses. We don't have to talk about that right now. I have time to talk
Right.
about the difference between the Joshua leader and the Moses leader. We'll get into that next week or the week after. But the point is, character development was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm way over time, but listen, leadership's a responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not a position. It's a responsibility. Joshua is now responsible for, I've read 1 million, I've read 2 million, however, it was a whole bunch of people, it was a whole nation of people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the deal is this, that you have been created to lead. We
Mm-hmm.
showed you that. We showed you that in Genesis from the beginning. We've been created to lead a thing in our area of giftedness.
Right.
Be fruitful, which means I already have seeds in me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to understand those seeds so I can know to be fruitful in that area.
Mm-hmm.
If I have apple seeds in me, I can't grow cucumbers.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to know where that is, right? And what that is. So the next thing that we were saying to you is like, don't believe the hype. You know, you're not, leaders aren't, how do we want to say it? It's you're not inherited to be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not a leader because of the color of your skin,
Mm-hmm.
or the gender you happen to be, or how much money your family had, or how much education you have or don't have. Don't believe that hype. Leaders must first develop the fruit that's in them.
Mm-hmm. True leaders.
Yes.
Pure leaders.
Right.
Real leaders.
Before followers appear.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm glad you said that. So I want you to think about something. I want you to think about it, and I'm picking on our government. So if you look at our government, we call our politicians our leaders.
Yeah.
We say that all the time, right? So we know that a leader, has to stand alone for a cause. Our politicians don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They bargain.
Yeah, they do.
They bargain back and forth to get the best deal, to accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish for their agenda.
That's the leaning to the right or to the left. That's kind of like what the Lord told Joshua not to do.
So who we're calling leaders, because they came from this family or that family or voted in, they're not necessarily leaders.
No, they're inherited managers.
Right, their position. Yeah, they're managers working in the position. So we want you to understand that the kingdom-based principle of leadership says, listen, you got to develop the fruit that's in you. Right? Because that's what's going to draw followers to you. That's the thing. That's your Jeremiah 1:5. That's that predestined purpose that I have for you. The secular version view of leadership is bound by societal norms. Yeah. Right? And the expectations that society has. So if society puts an expectation that says, this means you're successful. Right. Now, what that meant back in 1983 is different than what it means now in 2022.
And it keeps changing.
And it keeps changing because it's based on mankind's expectations.
Yeah.
Right. So finally, the non-secular view of leadership is framed by him. And this is the Ephesians 3:20.
Now on to
it's him who's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think, because the vision has already been in place. We've all been predestined. We all been seated with that thing. So we have to be able to see farther than we can look. And how does that happen? There has to be a spiritual connection to someone who's greater than us, our manufacturer, a God himself. So as we kind of get out of here, we wanted to iterate to you, strive to be a leader like Joshua, right? And exhibit the 3 C's of leadership. These are just 3 of them. I got some more C's for you, but here's the first 3. And it's clarity. Be clear in who you are, what your position is, what you mean to this, what you have, what's established in you, where it is you're supposed to go, and what you're supposed to, I'm going to use the word conquer and develop. Be courageous. Be courageous. So being courageous doesn't mean you're not going to get scared. Doesn't mean fear is not going to show up.
Right.
But be courageous means I can keep moving even while I'm afraid and not understanding what's going to happen. Moses did that. When it came time to part the Red Sea, he told the folks, stand still, be strong. God is our salvation. He turned around to God. He said, yo, God, what's up? We got this river. We got this whole thing in front of us. So clarity, courage, and then most of all, be mindful to develop your character on a daily basis.
Character check is every day.
Yes.
All day.
It's a consistent thing. All right. So I think that kind of brings us to the end of what we have here. And we're going to go to our kids piece.
Yeah. So, well, as we say each week, just reminding you that the lessons that we share, whatever God gives us, it's another way that we are launching ourselves. And so we're not launching at you, we're launching with you. The things that God is showing us that we need to do. You know,
and we want to proclaim and bless over your life even now. God, as we speak into the atmosphere, because you said what we say. It moves the atmosphere spiritually and physically, and what we say we can see. So we're proclaiming over the lives of those who are on this broadcast and who will watch recordings of this broadcast. We're releasing a rain. We're releasing a tendency. We're releasing a desire for clarity, courage, and character building to be prevalent in the lives of each of the leaders that you have established and birthed and put in place on this planet that will come in contact with this message. Clarity, courage, and character.
According to your purpose in our lives,
Yes,
Father.
yes.
Your will.
Yes. So you guys.
So anyway, we know this is like a big lesson for adults. So children definitely couldn't understand that. So we do have a series that's going to be following after each week, and it's just teaching children how to be leaders. So I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you here next week. Get your kids and sit them down. Check it out.
Hey guys, I'm Super J, and today is Saturday. Launch International Kids on Saturday. That's right, and I'm Super Zach. Well, we are here for Launch 360 Ministries Kid International, that is. That's right, Launch 360 International Ministries for kids. All kids, one big world and one great big God. Here we are growing, learning, and becoming who we're called to be every day.
Children are growing, so start them off the way they should go. And even when they're old, they will not turn from it. Proverbs 22:6. They're learning, so fathers, don't exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Ephesians 6:4. And they're becoming, for the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Romans 8:19.
All kids, one big world and one great big God. Hello everybody, I am Rocky. I'm Rocky the bold, courageous little girl. I'm not afraid of anything in this big old world. I stand strong and tall on God's word. I listen real closely to see what I heard. I'm strong, I'm not afraid. It's the way I was made. I stand on His word and I know what He said and I'm bold. Yes, I am. I trust in everything He says, 'cause His word is true, and I listen because I know what He's gonna do. He's gonna take care of me and you and me, all of us. Just watch and see. You and me and you, all of us. Just trust and see. Be bold, be courageous. Don't be afraid, 'cause God's the one who's got us made. I'm Rocky girl, that's who I am. Not afraid of anything in this world. Well, hello, Rocky the Bold. You just sounded marvelous. I really enjoyed that song. And my name is Super J.
Whoa! I love that song. Well, I'm Super Zach.
Oh, well, hi, Super J. And Super Zach. It's a pleasure to meet you.
You just sound like you're so confident and so bold and so brave.
Wow, that's just amazing. Being courageous. Wow, it just sounds prestigious. I'm courageous. Yeah, that's right, courageous. That means that it doesn't matter what's in front of you or behind you sometimes. You just have to have that courage that's inside of you. That feeling, that assurance to know that no matter what was very courageous. As a matter of fact, he helped Moses. Well, he was kind of like a spy, and he also was a follower. And then, because he followed so well and he was so obedient and he was courageous, he ended up being the leader. God told Joshua in his word that he had to be strong and be courageous. And when we're reading that, that's not just for Joshua, that's for us too. So if he told Joshua to be strong, he's telling you too. So now that you've learned all of that, Super J and Super Zach, what things are you going to be courageous in from now on?
You're right. God did tell him to be very courageous. Well, I'm going to be courageous in my schoolwork. Sometimes I get a little nervous, but not anymore, because you just said I can go through any battle and be on top. God's going to take care of me, and I believe it. So that's how I'm going to be courageous, Rocky, the courageous girl.
Yeah, I'm going to be courageous. I'm going to be courageous sharing God's word. I'm not going to be afraid to tell people about the goodness of God. I'm going to be courageous in my schoolwork too, Super Zach. But I'm going to be courageous about spreading the good news so that everybody can take the message that you just gave, Rocky the Courageous, and we can be strong and be bold because God is with us. This was an amazing lesson today. Thank you so much for sharing with us, Rocky the Courageous. And I hope everyone out there is going to be courageous too. I know it's a lot to take in, but if you watch this video from Saddleback Kids, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and you'll know why I'm as courageous as I am. Rocky the Courageous Girl. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video.
Now keep in mind, we do not own the rights to this video, but it's so awesome we had to share it with you.
The Faithful Hall of Fame, Joshua. This is Joshua. Joshua was an Israelite who followed Moses through the wilderness.
1, 2, 3, here we go. Oh, yeah.
Joshua learned from Moses as Moses led the Israelites through the Red Sea. And as Moses taught the people about God's law.
Oh, yeah. I see. Everyone, listen up.
One day, Moses was talking to the Israelites. He was reminding them of the law and all that God had done for them.
Yeah. Now, see here, all you.
When Moses had finished giving instructions to the people, he said, I am no longer able to lead you.
Hold on.
Do not be afraid, for God will neither fail you nor abandon you.
Yeah.
Then Moses called Joshua
Me?
and told him to be strong and courageous, for he would lead the Israelites into the promised land.
See?
Then Moses died. To this day, no one knows exactly where he was buried. The people and all of Israel mourned. The people of Israel looked to Joshua to lead them, as Moses had told them.
There he is. Yeah.
God told Joshua to be strong and courageous, for he would be with Joshua wherever he went. He told him to remember what Moses had told him and to study the book of instruction. God told Joshua that it was time to lead the people of Israel across the Jordan River and into the promised land.
Okay, here.
Joshua told the Israelite officials to go throughout the camp.
There.
They instructed everyone to pack up and get ready to head out.
Come on.
Joshua told the Israelites they were going to cross the Jordan River.
See here. There's what we're going to do, okay?
And so, Joshua prepared to lead his people as the Lord had commanded.
Thanks again for watching our channel. And we want you to follow us on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe. See you here next week for Launch 360 Ministries Kids International. International Ministries, that is. Oh, and don't forget to stop by Amazon and get some of Ami's World books. Her newest book is When Cheerleaders Go on Strike. Check them out. You'll love them all. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. And I'll see you again next week, because we're going to learn more about being a courageous leader. Bye!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire!
Welcome to